It just works. YongYea.com if you want to buy some merch.
Also quickly worth noting for those potentially interested, whereas on the merch store I sell my own products, if you go to patreon.com and support me through there, I offer in return essentially my time and more sort of personal one-on-one engagement with the community. You've got tiers that offer personalized audio or video messages, and at higher tiers, you know, we can do one-on-one video chats and stuff like that. So if that sounds kind of cool to you, hey, maybe worth checking out. But anyway, where were we? Right, Marvel's Avengers. Remember? Came out back in September 1st, 2020. Just give it a minute. It'll come back to you. What were we talking about? Right, Marvel's Avengers. I don't know how you get this incredible IP and your first train of thought is, let's create a generic live service. And I mean, the meta scores speak for themselves. It's just kind of middling and mediocre across the board. Very bland, very generic. Nothing that hasn't been done before. It feels overall like a missed opportunity to create a truly compelling Marvel's Avengers experience. And so we have seen the game ship in not only kind of in a generic state, but also in a very technically flawed state. And the developers have been working hard to fix the game that was clearly rushed to launch, that clearly wasn't ready for launch, and that just doesn't have the substance that a lot of people wanted. As far as the substance side of things go, well, Square Enix and the folks at Crystal Dynamics promised that they're going to keep adding new content and characters and flesh everything out, and so we saw that, you know, Kate Bishop came out recently in December, though it was supposed to come out in October, and Clint, Hawkeye, he was supposed to come out in December as well, but has been pushed back to 2021 after the developers realized that the game was in a more dire state than they expected, forcing them to hunker down on fixing the game and delaying the roadmap of this game, which, you know, is kind of a very familiar story at this point, and it's unfortunate to see these mistakes being repeated time and time and time again. Now, as far as the player base goes, the game is in a worse state than I've ever seen it. Going to Steam charts right now, you'll see that the 24-hour peak is sitting at a very low 519 players, and in the last 2 hours, 458 were playing. Over the last 30 days, the average player count, the concurrent player count, was 715 players, and the peak was a mere 1,462. You can see the diminishing pattern from 28,000, then to 3,000, then to 1,800, and we did see a little spike when Kate Bishop came out, but you can see right here the numbers weren't bolstered anywhere near enough, which suggests that not many people are excited about Marvel's Avengers anymore. They've probably moved on. They don't really care about the new content because the foundation of the game is just so, again, generic. And now we're at a point where the average players are at their lowest yet at 715 if you look at these stats here. So things are looking more and more dire. Even when numbers were higher, people were struggling to find matches with other players because the player base is so low. And while we don't have exact figures for the PlayStation and Xbox version of the game, I have little doubt that the player base isn't faring much better there either. Maybe it's better than PC because I believe more console copies were sold, more PlayStation copies were sold in particular, especially because of the Spider-Man DLC, but I don't suspect the player base is at a place where Square Enix would want it to be. They flat out said that Marvel's Avengers hasn't recouped its cost. And just to give you a point of reference, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, which is a game that I really loved playing on PC. This game came out back in March of 2019, 2 years ago. It's a single-player game, not a live service, and it's still maintaining 24-hour peaks of up to 6,000, you know, and you can see right here, peak players, it's still pretty high, given this is a single-player experience, and in the last hour, 2,000 people were playing. This single-player game has higher concurrent players than the newer live service Marvel's Avengers, which is, you know, the Avengers name being a bigger IP. It's baffling to see these results, but at the end of the day, quality matters, not just the brand name, and it would seem as though that's the part that was forgotten about. I'd like to say that things are looking up, but in the last couple of weeks, things have kind of gone dead silent surrounding the game. Content has been delayed, but no new updates have been provided. Hawkeye was supposed to come out last year, and we're already almost done with January, and there's still no updates on when we can expect Hawkeye in 2021. People thought maybe it's going to be out in January, and some people were speculating maybe February. But the fact that Hawkeye was supposed to come out in December, and even a month after, we're hearing nothing of it, and the fact that Hawkeye has been delayed to such an extent, I think that really highlights either how dire the technical state of the game is and how much time is being spent on fixing the game, or it might highlight just kind of waning interest on the publisher's part to support the game, in the sense that maybe the team has been reduced so they can move on to their next project, and maybe there's just sort of like a skeleton crew trying to fix this game and produce content for it. I don't know what's going on, and the lapse of communication means that there's plenty of speculation running amok alongside worries. And so, for example, here's an article from Forbes that reads, Marvel's Avengers falls silent with update plans again, Hawkeye's fate unknown. And given how much of Black Panther has been data mined, there's speculation that even Black Panther was supposed to come out sometime in December, maybe late December. So we were supposed to get 3 characters between September and December. And now we only got 1, Kate Bishop, in December. Hawkeye, who knows when he's going to come out, and in turn, who knows when Black Panther is going to come out, and who knows when Spider-Man's coming out. No doubt that's been delayed as well. Probably you have to prioritize the characters that have already announced to release soon. There's just a lack of substance to this game. It desperately needs a ton of more content, and to see progression of content be this slow, on top of the dwindling player base, on top of just dying interest, I don't know, it just feels like this game is dying off in a similar way that Anthem did. In fact, there are a lot of parallels you can draw to Anthem, which is the gold standard of how not to launch a AAA title. Now, the folks at Crystal Dynamics usually host a stream where they play the game and interact with the community. And when people kept asking them, okay, when are we going to get new content? They quickly acknowledged they wouldn't have any news to share, and it wasn't up to them specific when to share such news. So who is it up to? Because something has to give. Some assurance has to be provided, because right now, it doesn't feel like this game has a future. I keep bringing up the concurrent player base. This is a live service. The number of players directly affects people's experience with the title, because the whole point of Marvel's Avengers is you gather with other players up to 4 and tackle missions. But with how low the player base has gotten, again, matchmaking has been just incredibly troubled and incredibly difficult to gather 4 players together. And you've got modes like, AIM cloning labs that require 4 players, but there are continued reports that getting 4 players consistently together for anything in the game has been almost impossible from the start. There are some stuff you can do solo or with, just 1 or 2 other players. There's some stuff you have to get 4 players together to engage with. And regardless of which route you take, it's just finding players, period. Any one player can be a difficult task. The infrequency of being able to properly matchmake with even, 1 extra player rather than 3 extra players. The infrequency of updates from the developers or the publisher about what to expect. And the lackluster frequency of new updates and content as a result of the delays because of the kind of broken state the game launched in, on top of the just general lack of substance. It all contributes to the feeling that this game, it seems unlikely that it'll make any kind of comeback. It's not going to be Rainbow Six Siege, it's not going to be No Man's Sky or Final Fantasy XIV unless they, overhaul this game like Anthem is doing right now to try to salvage that. The foundation of this game is just not compelling. And because of the lack of engagement with this game, microtransaction sales are likely drying up. There are just not enough players playing for long enough to garner interest in the in-game items that they're selling for real-world money. I ultimately don't know who approached who with the idea of making Marvel's Avengers just another looter live service. I don't know if Crystal Dynamics pitched this idea to Square Enix or if Square Enix forced the developers to make this kind of game, but I'm just imagining the possibilities of an open world Marvel's Avengers single player experience, the kind of storytelling they could engage with. And it's just the standards for superhero games have gone so high, especially after Marvel Spider-Man. And to see Avengers, the peak Marvel franchise, kind of go off into the night unceremoniously like this, man. Again, I'm just thinking about the missed opportunity here and how unfortunate this all is. Now, maybe by some miracle, you know, they're hunkering down and working on some really compelling content. Hey, No Man's Sky went silent for a long stretch of time before they were ready to show something major. I don't know if Marvel's Avengers will see something like that. It just doesn't seem like it to me. It just feels like the publishers in particular are going to give up on this. But maybe if they stick with it, maybe if they actually have a game plan, and if they execute properly, maybe there's a chance for a comeback. But to me, the game is just not fun to play. Even if you fix the technical issues, even if you add new characters, the core experience just feels drab to me. And that's why I don't see myself coming back. Just I'm not excited about the prospect of the game finally being fixed, because by then I feel like it'll be too late, and I feel it's going to be the same for so many people. But if they can prove me wrong, hey, I'm all for it. But so far, oof, man. But that's just my take. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on the state of Marvel's Avengers. Have you played it recently at all? Do you have any hopes for the future of this title? Drop a comment, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.